Does that mean... Nah.
But...
Hey. Itakura.
This is the worst.
Hey.
Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be pickup and date questions that create attraction. Well, I've got a bunch of, because I get asked this quite a bit. It's like, what do you talk to women about when you're either on a date or when you're meeting them for the first time? What are some good topics to talk about so you don't seem dull and boring and ask the same, like, where'd you grow up, where'd you go to school, those kind of basic questions. And if you've read my book, then you know, and plus if you have any experience in sales, that one of the most important things to do with somebody to sell them on your product or service is to create rapport with them. And like when I was in the real estate and the mortgage business and also in the construction industry, you're selling yourself, you're selling your company and what you can do for that particular client. And what I always used to teach my salespeople to do is not to sit down and go into a sales pitch as soon as the client comes into your office. But as a matter of fact, kind of leave all that stuff off to the side, and you should spend at least the first 10 to 15 minutes when a client comes in just talking to them, asking, just getting to know them, asking the kind of questions that maybe an old friend or somebody that knows them would ask them, like, hey, how you been? Tell me about your kids. Like, especially if you're sitting down at an appointment, you can look around the room, you can see the guy's diploma on the wall. You start asking him about the college, what he majored in, what the school was like. And what it does, it creates rapport with another human being, men and women, just by asking questions, personal questions about them, because we all love to talk about ourselves. We all love to brag about ourselves. And we always like it when another human being takes a sincere, authentic interest in us. And so you can use those sales techniques to also create rapport with women. And the beautiful thing about asking questions is who's ever asking the questions, in essence, is leading the conversation. And as a man, if you're trying to create attraction, you want to be the leader. You want to lead the conversation, you want to lead the interaction to where you ultimately want it to go. Well, before I get into these, I got a quote that I'd like to share with you. It says most people don't really have that much exciting stuff going on in their lives. When people go out, they are usually looking to escape from their boring lives. The best way to create rapport and attraction with members of the opposite sex is to talk about positive and uplifting topics that elicit good feelings. This will cause them to see you as unique, fun, different, and exciting to be around. If they're smiling, feeling good, and laughing with you, it will create sexual attraction. So let's go through these. So the idea is like when you ask a woman a question, instead of trying to come up with things to talk about, if you can ask them an interesting question, an interesting topic, the kind of things that are not used to getting asked by the average guy, it sets you apart. It causes you to be different, and it creates a really great vibe to create rapport. And so the idea is like if you start talking about a topic, it gives you something that both of you can talk about. Maybe you can share a particular story or something that you have experience with. And so the first one I probably got about 20 of them. So I'm going to post these also in the article on my website so you can see them. But we'll go through them one by one. A great question you can ask is, what are you passionate about? Just think about it. What are you passionate about? And you ask that to a woman that you meet. That's going to elicit a positive, good feeling. Or what do you love in life? Here's another one. What is the craziest thing you've ever done? What is the most exciting place you've ever had sex in public? What do you like to do for fun? Here's one I like. Do you remember your first day of school? What was it like? I remember my first day of school. I can remember it like it was yesterday, but it was, it was like almost 35, 36 years ago. I remember I was very shy, and the school that I was supposed to go to was a little overcrowded, and so our actual kindergarten classroom was in the bottom of a fire station. And so, this is like my first time away from my parents. I remember I had these plaid, they were like red and turquoise, they were like red and navy blue plaid pants. I remember that. And my kindergarten teacher, she was overweight, and she had this big wart on her nose, and it had all these black hairs growing out of it. And I was like terrified of this woman. And the bathroom was outside in the hallway. And I had to pee like really bad, but I was so afraid of my teacher that I just held it. And I remember there was like this square blue table, and it had sand in it. It was kind of like a little sandbox on with legs on it, and it had like toys and stuff, and so you could play with that. And I remember I just got to the point where I couldn't hold it anymore, and so I'm walking around, I'm fucking peeing in my pants. I've got dark pants, so I didn't really like show like a giant wet spot. But obviously you could smell it. And I remember one of the girls that I was in class with, she's like, "Ew, you peed your pants." I was like, "No, I didn't." And I remember walking around in the room and just seeing like the drops of urine just like fall out the bottom of my pant leg. I was so embarrassed. When I got home, I told my mother about it. She's like, "Why didn't you ask?" And she's like, "Why didn't you ask your teacher if he's in the bathroom?" So she gave me this lecture and helped build my confidence in what I should do. And obviously, next time I was there, I had to pee. I actually went and asked permission, and then went to the bathroom outside of it. But it was like one of those funny, kind of embarrassing kind of stories. And so here's another one. What do you love but are afraid to admit that you love it? A lot of women say, like, I'm a chocoholic. I love chocolate. What's unique and exciting about you? What are your guilty pleasures? What do your friends love most about you? What makes life exciting to you? What's your biggest dream? What are you most proud of? What is the funniest thing that ever happened to you? What is the most fun you've ever had? How do you know when a guy is right for you?
Excuse me?
What specifically makes him stand out for the rest? And what's cool about asking this question is that it can lead into another question like, have you ever fallen in love with somebody as soon as you looked in their eyes? And when you ask specific questions about this topic, you can figure out the woman will actually describe what her attraction strategy is. In other words, it's a look, a smile, and you can actually get the woman to describe. Well, this guy kind of looked at me a certain way. I was like, okay, well, what was his posture in relation to you? Well, he was kind of turned sideways. His head was kind of tilted. And as she's describing this, you'd be putting yourself into that position. physically to duplicate specifically exactly what she liked about this guy. Maybe he had a look or a smirk that he gave, and you could say, was it kind of like this? And you could do it, and you're like, yeah, that's it. I mean, think about that. You get her to tell you her attraction strategy, and then you duplicate it right there on the spot. And if you get her to literally describe this, you'll start to trigger that feeling within her, because we all have like a certain look. There's a certain thing that we like when we see a girl, and we're just like, we know that she's got it. Whatever it happens to be, it's different for all of us. That's a great topic that you can have a lot of fun with. Because what it does, it causes you to match and mirror the posture of somebody that really had a strong effect on her emotions in a positive way. And you can duplicate that yourself by asking specific questions around that topic. Another question you can ask is, what do your friends admire most about you? And there was the one I was saying earlier. Have you ever fallen in love just by looking into someone's eyes? And if she says yes, ask her specifically what made them stand out from the rest. Their smile, their clothes, their body language, how they looked at you, their tone of voice. What was their hook that made them irresistible to you? And when you ask these questions, it gives you a lot of great intel on stuff that you can actually use and duplicate right then and there on the spot. What makes you really happy? What cracks you up more than anything? What is the silliest thing you've ever done? What is your favorite memory? What is the funniest movie you've ever seen? Another one could be, have you seen any good funny movies lately? Have you ever been very mischievous and done things like put Mr. Bubble in a large water fountain?
Fuck off! Oh, what the fuck?
I had a bunch of buddies of mine. We did this when we were in our 20s. This was when I was growing up living in Fort Lauderdale. And there was a big fountain that was on the corner, and so it shot water in the air, so there was a lot of splashing. And so we went to the store and we bought like 4 or 5 bottles of Mr. Bubble, and we put it in like a large Ziploc bag. And then we like pulled up.
I forgot how to do it.
And it was like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. We'd all been partying and having a good time. We were just fucking around. So one of my buddies got out, ran up, opened the Ziploc bag, dumped all this stuff in, and then we came back like an hour later, and the suds were like all bubbling out of the fountain. They had literally bubbled all the way out into the road. And even the next day we went by there, the bubbles were all over the grass. It was hilarious. There was a dude cleaning up the fountain. Obviously, he probably didn't think it was very funny, but we thought it was hilarious. Have you ever, here's one. Have you ever farted and blamed it on someone else successfully, like an older relative? I don't know if you've ever had any relatives, like when they're kind of starting to lose it, they'll ask you something, and about 2 minutes later, they ask you the same exact question. You can have fun, because it's like, they never really remember. I know it's kind of shitty, but hey, it's like, they're family. It's like, come on. What's the most fun you've ever had on a date? What's the one thing you can't say no to? Now here's one I like. What are you really good at that would surprise me? Girls will say, you know what? Well, I can take a cherry and I can twist the stem of the cherry and I can make a knot in it in my mouth with my tongue. Like, really? Well, show me. Get a cherry from the bartender and watch her do it. Or then you all can do it together. It's just fun. It's playful. And the last one that I want to share with you is, if you could wake up tomorrow and be any place in the world, where would it be and why? So those are some great questions that you can ask that are different, that are unique from your typical, hey, where'd you grow up, where'd you go to school, which he's probably answered 1,000 times and is probably tired of answering. So that should give you some ammunition. Like I said, I'm going to post all of these different questions on the actual article that's on my website that obviously matches the title of this video. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask me, or you got a topic you'd like me to cover in a future newsletter, or you'd like to get my help personally, go to my website, click the products tab, which will be at the top of your screen, and book a paid phone coaching session with yours truly. And I will talk to you soon. Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be displaying weakness. Well, I got an email here from a guy who he admits he's struggling financially. He's basically living paycheck to paycheck, and he's been dating a woman for about 5 months.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be neediness and self-worth. I've got two emails I'm going to go through with you. The first one is from a guy who basically has the same kind of problem that I used to have when I was younger, which is that, and this a lot of guys have this problem, which is they get around a woman they really like and they're really into, and they just completely lose their shit and either chase the woman right out of their lives or completely turn her off to the point whether she wants nothing to do with them or she sticks them in friend zone. This particular guy, he's successful and things are going well for him, but he says when he gets around a woman he likes, he loses it. He says his lack of self-worth and his needy behavior is what drives her away. And the second email is a success story from a guy who first found my work after his girlfriend ditched him, and he discusses how applying what's in my book, what's in my articles, and my videos has helped him get to a place where he really loves, values, and respects himself. And obviously that's had a dramatic impact on his success with women. So he goes through how it's changed. So I have a quote that I wrote on this topic, and I'm going to go through both the emails. So the quote says, "We all act in ways that are consistent with the story that we tell ourselves or the perception that we hold about ourselves. It does not matter if that view is accurate or not. Most people do not realize how their negative self-talk influences their decisions and actions. If you feel peaceful, relaxed, awesome, successful, confident, and abundant, you typically will take action that is consistent with someone who is deserving of success and who expects to succeed. If you are uncertain, fearful, and timid and feel like you are unworthy or undeserving, you typically will take action that is consistent with someone who is not deserving of success and who expects to fail. Therefore, when you do not feel confident or worthy, you must visualize and imagine yourself as being surrounded by the circumstances you really want to create and take action and act as if it will work out eventually. Successful people take action despite their fears and an uncertain future. Failures avoid action and seek to settle for mediocrity and a non-existent quick fix to gain certainty and peace of mind because their beliefs are in conflict with their goals and outcomes." Let's go ahead and jump right in. And by the way, for those of you that have not read my book yet, you can actually read it for free by going to my website, understandingrelationships.com. And just subscribe to the newsletter. Just look for the one where it shows the book and the free audio lessons. And once you see that it works for you, and obviously it's really good information, and for those of you that are new that may have to follow me or you're not convinced I know what I'm talking about, if you read the book for free, I mean,
Bro, I gotta watch this shit every time.
Is your email and your name,
Bro.
that, and you'll get a link to read the book. And then once you see that it works for you, that I really do know what I'm talking about, then you can go and do an Audible free trial of my book or get a paperback or a Kindle version. So, I mean, there's no risk to you other than your time and your name and your email address to get access to the best of everything I teach. And of course, you've got all the videos and articles that I've written as well. Because all these emails that I answer in here, it's answered under the premise that you've at least learned the fundamentals in the book. And these are real world examples of guys that are in situations or they're struggling, maybe having similar problems to what you're experiencing. And you can learn how to properly apply the book and custom tailor it for the wisdom and the principles and the fundamentals in the book to each specific situation. So with that said, let's go through the first email. It says, "Hey Coach, I just started listening to your YouTube videos and I just bought your book. I'm 32 and I've been making the same mistakes over and over." That's exactly what was happening to me. And after many, many years, my teenage years, through most of my 20s, up until like the latter half of my 20s, that's when things really started to click for me. I just got tired of it. I got tired of every really great opportunity blowing it and not being able to figure out what I was doing or saying that was causing these women to go from being really interested to, "Oh, I just think of you as a friend." and it just didn't click. And as a man, that's like one of the most frustrating and demeaning things that you can experience as a man, not being able to date the quality of woman that you want. Same thing goes with your peer group, not being able to have the kind of friends that you want, spend your time with the kind of people that you want. So he says, I'm way too sensitive and I can be needy due to self-worth issues. Which is frustrating because I'm a catch and I'm successful, but I can never remember that when I'm dating a girl. So it's like, what is self-worth? Self-worth to me is being able to look in the mirror and love yourself as you are without expecting yourself to change and being okay with where you are in life, whether you're in college and striving to graduate so you can get the kind of job or career you've always wanted, or you're in your 30s and you haven't gotten that promotion that you wanted, you haven't really gotten to that place that you wanted in your career yet. It's always being, but no matter where you are, it's being able to accept yourself as you are, with all your flaws, with all your faults. Because it's like once you accept who you are as you are, the way you talk, the way you look, the way your body is shaped, the way your voice sounds, nobody can use your flaws against you, and you really just don't give a damn anymore. If you notice, if you spend your time around a lot of people who are older, they tend to get that way as they get older. They got no fucks to give. They don't care. They don't worry about what other people think. And the sooner you can get to that place in your life where you stop trying to live your life according to other people's expectations, and you're no longer worried about people liking or accepting you, because when you like, love, value, and accept yourself, it doesn't matter what other people think. You see a really hot girl and you really like her and you think she's into it, and then she just shoots you down, rejects you, or she has a boyfriend. That's a win. That's a victory, because at least you showed up. If you go after that job you really wanted and you don't get it, your happiness should not depend upon whether or not you got that job. Your happiness should depend upon whether you actually took action and you become okay and content with, even if you failed, at least you took action. You got to at least show up. I think it was Woody Allen that said like 80% of success in life is just simply showing up. As a matter of fact, there's a really great Lucille Ball quote that I posted in my Instagram recently. And it's a really great quote on loving yourself, self-worth, and the importance of that. And she said, love yourself first and everything else falls in line.
Yes.
You really have to love yourself to get anything done in this world.
That's right.
That was Lucille Ball, the famous American actress.
Oh.
One of the things that I learned from Tony Robbins many years ago, and I did an article on this, is he says that success is 80% psychology and 20% mechanics. In other words, the psychology portion of it is, do I believe I'm worthy? Do I deserve it? Do I deserve to have a really amazing, spectacular person love me just for who I am with all my flaws and faults? Do I deserve to have that really awesome job that I've always wanted in life? Because once you believe you're worthy, or at the very least, if you visualize, just like I said in the quote, if you visualize yourself as being surrounded by the conditions that you want to create, and you imagine and you fantasize, how would I think, how would I act, what would my life be like, what would my responses be if I had an overabundance of everything, if I had an overabundance of job opportunities, if I had an overabundance of people to date, if I had an overabundance of investors wanting to invest in my startup dream, if I had an overabundance of health, if I had an overabundance of people that wanted to hang out and spend time with me, if I had an overabundance of the kinds of places that I wanted to live. If you had too much of everything in your life, you never would be in a rush to do anything or make a decision, because you would need to analyze your options, look at and weigh the pros and cons of each. When it came to dating, do I really like this person enough to want to spend a day with them, or an evening with them, or a weekend with them, or a night with them? You got to get data. But if you're in a scarcity mindset, you fear you're going to lose everything. When you fear you're going to lose everything, you're in a rush. You're in a state where you're neurotic, you're fearful, you're worried about things, and so all of your actions try to be forceful. When it comes to human interactions, when you're trying to sell another human being on you personally, whether it's somebody you want to date or something to do with your career or your ability to do the job that you want the promotion for, your ability to sell yourself on that person is going to determine how they're going to respond to you. And if you're in a matter-of-fact kind of state of mind where, of course, this person's going to want to date me, of course I'm going to get that job, of course that investor will want to invest in myself, of course that potential customer will buy my product or service. When you have that kind of an attitude, you're going to act in ways and you're going to put out the vibe that resonates with that. And the importance of it is just like the quote from T.N. Han, which is you must love in such a way that the person you love feels free. If you have an abundance in everything, you'll be able to love in a non-attached way where you extend your invitation and then it's up to the other person to accept or pass, or maybe they'll go think about it. But you're like, give me a call if you change your mind. Give me a call if you'd like to hang out. Give me a call if you change your mind and you're willing to sell that particular item to me at the price that I can afford to pay or that I want to pay. When you're okay with that, you give that person the freedom to come and go. And therefore, the people that are in your life, they're there because they chose to be there. Versus when you're in a fearful state and you feel needy, you feel unworthy, you try to force them to stay there. So everybody that interacts with you is going to feel like in some way, shape, or form, they're losing their freedom by interacting with you, whether it's a lover, whether it's a potential client, a potential employer. People are going to treat you exactly how you perceive yourself to be. That's why it can be very helpful, like I mentioned in the quote, just to spend 5 or 10 minutes every day when you get up, or some portion of the day, maybe when you're sitting in your car waiting to go on your job, just close your eyes and think to yourself about all the things you have to be grateful for and what life will be like 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now when you get from where you are right now to where you really want to be. You visualize yourself surrounded by the circumstances, surrounded by the life and lifestyle, the kind of people that you really dream about. How would you think? How would you act that's different than the way you normally show? How would you view yourself? How would you respond to people that put you down or who don't treat you in a favorable way? You wouldn't let it get under your skin. You wouldn't be bothered, because when somebody doesn't accept your invitation, it just means, it doesn't mean you're rejected, it just means that you're not compatible. At the end of the day, you really want to spend your time with people who you're compatible with. So back to the email, he says, I have a girl that I've been seeing for 2 months and things are going really well, but I am sabotaging myself with coming off as being needy. So again, that tells me you're trying to force things. You're calling too much. You're trying to focus on getting her to kiss you instead of creating the circumstances where she feels safe and comfortable enough to where she wants to start touching you and reaching out to you and pursuing you.
Other way.
Because in essence, when you're trying to force something, your vibe is going to be off, and women can sense that. It makes them not feel safe with you. It makes them not feel comfortable, and they're going to close up and push you away or withdraw. Because again, they feel threatened, like they're going to lose their freedom. That's why in your particular case, that's why it's so important to read the book 10 to 15 times. Again, you can subscribe to the newsletter for free on my website. And once you feel comfortable enough with that, then go buy the Audible version. But you gotta read 10 to 15 times, especially because it helps rewire the way you think and view yourself. Because most of your problem, just like 80% of success is psychology and 20% is the actual mechanics. That's why a lot of times you'll see me say, read the book. You got to learn the mechanics. If you believe you're worthy and you act in ways that are worthy, even if maybe deep down you don't feel you're worthy right now, if you continue to behave in ways that communicate you're worthy, then people will respond to you like you're worthy. Not everybody will, but the small percentage of the ones that do, those are the ones that you really want to be with anyways. And the more you apply what's in the book, the more that you see it works, the more you see that women really become predictable in a good way.
Either way,
you lose your fear or worry about the outcome of what may or may not happen. It just happens effortlessly and naturally, just like the wind blowing, or the sun coming up in the east and setting in the west, or the fact if you've ever sat on a beach, like you can obviously see the intercoastal behind me here, even if there's no boats going by, the water is still moving, the waves are still moving, the wind makes them move, the tides go up and down, no matter what's going on in our own world. So act as if, even if you're fearful. How would a confident person act? How would a person act who always has things work out for them magically in the end, even if things go sideways? Like I just made an offer on a place to lease in this building that I looked at 6 to 8 months ago, and I didn't get the property that I looked at 6 or 8 months ago, but the one that I made an offer on yesterday, better property, and financially it's a much better deal. And that was something that I learned in real estate, flipping foreclosure properties, because sometimes a deal would fall through and, you know, most people get pissed off because of the money they didn't make. But typically the way my partners and I looked at it is, you know what, if a deal falls through, we don't get that house, the next one we'll make even more money on it. Or if the person who's going to buy our particular house, if they don't end up buying it, usually what would happen is like the appraisal would finally come in and it would be appraised at $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 more than we thought it would appraise for in fixed up condition, and then we could make a little bit more money on the flip. And that's when I look at business transactions, that's the way I always look at it. If something doesn't go right the first time, or the first deal doesn't come together, the one I actually end up getting will be a better deal, a BBD, bigger, better deal. And when you're patient, you hold your outcome of what you want in your mind and you go towards that, things fall by the wayside, you're okay with that. You get rejected by that girl you really want, what happens is maybe 6 months later you meet somebody that's 10 times better, 10 times personality is better for you than the other one. It always works out better in the end if you're patient and you're okay with things not working out initially.
And stay down.
For example, I went to her work Thanksgiving party last night. Things were great, and I went back to her place. We started having sex, and she said since she wasn't going to come, and I stopped. She was pretty drunk. We only went for about 5 minutes. Well, when she says something like that, again, what is making love? Making love is giving. You were physically penetrating her with your strength. And it's all about giving. She says, oh, I'm not going to come. It doesn't matter. I'm still going to make love to you. It's that resistance. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling safe. I'm feeling completely open to you. But when you're not affected, it's like when a woman's on top and she says, are you going to come yet? I want you to come now. I want to come at the same time. And you don't. And she does. Then she can have more powerful orgasms afterwards because she felt her strength to resist. Like she said she wanted you to do a certain thing, but you have your own agenda. You have what you're focused on personally. It's very powerful. In other words, it's like, especially when a woman senses weakness, she's going to jab you in all kinds of different ways like that, because what she's really looking for is your strength. In other words, are you going to lose your shit?
Starving. It's pretty tasty. Thanks.
She instantly rolled over, and I was dumb enough to ask her if something is wrong. And when I have rolled over in the past, it was a bad sign. And he says, idiot. I mean, look at your self-talk. But, I mean, the good news is you're able to self-diagnose and you know what you did wrong. Now, if you're in the middle of making love and she says, I'm not going to come yet, it doesn't matter. Keep making it good for her. Keep making it good for you. You understand a woman's body, not a stimulator. It's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of hope. It's simply a matter of time. What happened is you became impatient. You became fearful that you weren't good enough. And so what happened was you basically communicated by rolling over and getting off her that you weren't good enough, which is going to tend to piss her off more because you just showed, she tested your strength to see if you're weak, and you communicated through your actions, through your body language, that you were weak. And you knew right away that you shouldn't have done it. What did she say?
Back already on this shit.
She said,
How
I
are
was
you feeling after last
overthinking
night?
it, and worse.
Shockwave from the blast took you down.
Oh, yeah.
And he says,
There's something else I gotta say.
I bet.
But in your mind, you're telling yourself, I don't deserve to be here. I don't deserve to have this woman care about me. And it's just a matter of time before I fuck something up.
What you saying? Well, can I say something before? Can I say something before he does? All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The one thing ain't nobody talking about. Shannon, what do you have to say to Aaron? Let's just squash this. This is not even DeMar.
I already spoke to Aaron. I spoke to Aaron. Me and Shannon already had a conversation, and we already got to Aaron. Yeah. I feel like that's why we have this conversation now. We're supposed to all come to a common denominator. We can all come to a solution because it's being dragged out. The fact that Jared has a whole issue is crazy to me. And it was crazy to Susie. Jared had nothing to do with it. He was never in the solution. I don't even know why he's going to hold down. I got on the phone. I was driving, and I didn't know how to. I remember the instructions on how to. You asked me that. You like, why is she out on the phone? I told me you asked me that because I asked you why you got Jared.
I mean, if Aaron's friend's on the phone, then Shannon's friend should be on the phone.
I mean, but even outside that, I didn't know I was being called to this, but it's whatever.
Because you called me. Because you called me.
I mean, and I called Susie on my own position because I wanted to speak to Susie about it, and that's something that can be addressed if you can address it. But the bigger question, I told Susie that I wanted to do real quick, I want to address something that you did, right? Yeah. So it's tough to have a high level of understanding, like it's hard, right? Because I feel like
You look good.
I want to try to do it more often. It's just annoying. It's annoying.
What is annoying about letting someone else read it?
I don't know. I just always hate it.
if we are working on things and you see another man in your girl's lap or vice versa, you're telling me
That's mine.
this is a workable situation. At the end of the day,
You got Chinese food too?
I genuinely thought that I need a very
No, it's not Chinese.
that person and I had to go through that on trial. Based on the actions of what I perceived happened after I been working with that night.
Of course.
Tough guy. Camarocho's finest detective never fails to impress.
Tough. Amazing. Would have Been asking around if anyone's seen Kuwana.
You don't want to know how that went.
No leads, huh?
Pretty much. Doesn't help that Arcade's crawling all over the place right now. Soon as they spot Kuwana, they're gonna make their move.
Kawana gave this to me yesterday.
Isn't that Toshiro Ehara? Kawana-san called you out there just to give you this?
Yep. He told me to give it to Ahara.
What the? Oh man, it looks like it's cracked.
Can you take a look at it, Tsukumo? I get the feeling it's no ordinary pendant.
Certainly.
Not handing it over to Ahara till you know what the deal is?
Well, he won't mind, will he? Besides, I damn near got blown up over that thing.
Speaking of, Yagamishi, what's the status of Ehara's sexual battery trial?
Saori-san's preparing for the appeal. Still no date, but the courts are working as fast as they can. If they accept the case and it goes to trial, they'll find out about Kawana one way or another.
And that'd put Reiko Kusumoto in public security in the shithouse, right?
Right. If Kawana and his murders come to light, anyone connected to Reiko Kusumoto could be suspected as an accomplice. And if that happens, she'd lose any control she had over the pension fund.
Interesting.
Everyone wants their own brand of justice to come out on top. And enough is enough. If we don't handle this, public security will take out Kawana. And I can't let him die like that.
Then what's your next move?
Gonna head to Ahara's trial and back up Saori-san. Feels like we've come full circle.
I'd argue the opposite, Yagamishi. The circumstances surrounding the trial are completely different this time around. I can't help but consider how grand a task simply seeking the truth could be.
Seriously. But exposing the truth is the only way to save some and get justice for others. You can't just stay quiet and watch.
Sounds like you're seeing the light. Detective work's not so bad, is it?
Can you guys keep an eye out for Kawana and Ijincho? I need to go over Ahara's case with Saori-san.
10-4. We'll amp up surveillance.
We're going too, Sukiura. Time to get shit done.
Right on.
What you said, I'm not ready for a relationship right now, that doesn't mean that I'm ready for one afterwards. Somebody does say they will be my friend. Someone's having a munch. So these came just in time. I mean, tomorrow, Jared, Aaron, and Shannon.
Yeah, I'm doing it. So every situation was like from January to August, we didn't have a conversation about her, and I was intentionally, Gary, did I not tell you that I was not having a conversation with the market intentionally? I told you that, right? Yes. All right, for a reason.